Housing prices are surging all around the country, inventory's at record lows, and buyers are going way over asking in order to get their home. So, when's the bubble gonna pop? Let's talk all about it. Before we dive into what's going to happen, it's important to understand how we got here. As the pandemic spread around the world and grew in the United States, there was a chain reaction that swept the nation. Fear of the virus led to home sellers holding off on putting their houses on the market, and at the same time, buyer demand increased due to low interest rates and a desire to move away from populated areas. This created a drastic shift in supply and demand that drove prices through the roof in many markets around the country. In the early days of the pandemic, a disruption in the building materials pipeline slowed down new construction around the country. Now, even though new construction is surging, builders simply can't build fast enough to meet demand. Limited housing supply has been a concern for years, and with the current circumstances, demand will continue to outweigh supply. Also, an increase in lumber prices means that it's more expensive to build a house than it was just a year ago. Another factor is low interest rates. Interest rates have been falling since the end of 2018, and now they're even lower. These record low rates are bringing more buyers to the market that are looking to take advantage of a good deal. With rates below 3%, your dollar goes even farther when purchasing a new home. There's also a sense among potential home sellers that if I sell, where do I go? So they don't sell, and the issue compounds on itself. All of this adds up to low inventory and high buyer demand. So let's look at what's actually going on. Gallatin County in Montana has been a strong seller's market for years. People from all around the world have been moving here, and now even more so. In 2018 and 2019, real estate inventory was hovering just above a 3-month supply. This means that if no other homes are listed, in 3 months, we'll run out of inventory completely. In December of last year, that inventory dropped to just 0.7 months of inventory. If historic seasonal lows of inventory hold true, I would expect that number to fall even lower. Now, there are some markets that have been in decline with higher inventory levels, but the overall trend around the country is low inventory and high buyer demand. Historically, a 6-month supply of inventory is associated with a moderate price increase, and lower levels of supply normally push the prices even higher. In December of 2020, the month's supply was at a record low of 1.9 months nationally. This is down from a 2.3 month supply in November of 2020 and from the 3-month figure a year ago earlier in December of 19. Thankfully, home equity is much greater than during the Great Housing Crash. In fact, the vast majority of homeowners have equity in their homes right now. Unfortunately, a lot of people are hurting financially and some are unable to make their payments. Some of the jobs that were lost will never come back. The government is allowing mortgages to be put in forbearance, but that's eventually going to come to an end. And when it does, I expect to see homes hitting the market as people struggle financially, will cash out and either downsize or move seeking employment. In the last crash, people didn't have options. They couldn't make their payments, they couldn't find work, they were upside down on their mortgages, and they were foreclosed on. It was awful. Home equity provides options though. It's the lifeboat in this disaster. I've met a lot of people that are worried about the current bubble and compare this to 2008, mainly because of the rapid inflation of real estate prices. I personally know people that are waiting for the prices to come back down before they buy. They saw the crash before and are expecting it again. But let's take a moment to compare this market to that one. Back then, Fannie and Freddie made home loans available to people with low credit scores who were at a high risk of defaulting on their loans. They were given a stated income loan without any verification, and people were biting off more than they could chew. To make matters worse, people were taking out adjustable rate mortgages, which started out cheap, but then the rate would go up and the homeowner couldn't pay their mortgage after a few years. By 2008, borrowers were defaulting on these subprime loans en masse, and the financial firms that bought mortgage-backed securities were in trouble. Then a wave of foreclosures hit the housing market and flipped the supply and demand equation on its head, which drove down home prices. This turmoil in the financial markets led to the stock market collapsing and mass layoffs. There were several more factors that went into this perfect storm of suck as well, that financially wiped out so many people. This is all recent memory, and I understand why somebody would be skittish. However, a lot of these factors no longer exist in today's market. Stated income loans are practically gone. Adjustable rate mortgages are less common, and home equity is through the roof. The stock market's made a miraculous V-shaped recovery and are still climbing, and the overall economy is improving. Now, states like California and New York are starting to ease restrictions on businesses. In the coming months, as the vaccine begins to work around the country and the pandemic comes to an end, I would expect to see an exuberant reaction from the American people that are tired of lockdowns and restrictions. I'm predicting an economic boom as people joyfully find excuses to gather in crowds at concerts and sporting events, and even little things like going to happy hour with friends and coworkers. As far as the future of home prices are concerned, the National Association of Realtors chief economist Lawrence Yun predicts that new home sales will jump 21% and existing home sales will climb 9% in 2021. He predicts home prices will rise by 3% in 2021 on a national level. So is the real estate bubble gonna pop in 2021? I think we'll see an increase in inventory levels that will slow down the inflation of home prices, but it won't be enough to reverse the current trend in most markets. Because of this, I don't think we're gonna see the market crash, and if you're holding out to buy for lower prices, I'm not sure that's such a good strategy. So tell me what you think is gonna happen to the housing market in the comments below, and if home prices are climbing or falling where you're at. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Kyler with the Harris Group at Keller Williams in Bozeman, Montana, and I'll see you on the next one.